I've done a bit of research on Halloween and have come up with 101 facts about fall festivals. Many Halloween traditions are influenced by ancient festivals. In fact, if you count Halloween as a continuation of these celebrations, then it's actually one of the longest lasting celebrations in the world, dating back over 2,000 years to the time of the Celts. Samhain is the Celtic festival marking the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter preparations, marking the end of their calendar year, making Samhain the Celtic New Year. It was believed to be the time of the year when it was easier for spirits to enter our world. To protect themselves from evil spirits, villagers would wear masks to confuse them or escape their notice. The Celtics would also place treats and food outside their home to please the spirits. Some would even leave a dumb supper for the spirits of the departed. It was thought sometimes ghosts would disguise themselves as human, come to your door and ask for money or food, and if they left empty-handed, you would become cursed. The term bonfire actually comes from a Samhain tradition called a bonfire, where Celtic druids would throw bones of cattle into the flames of a fire to ensure the sun would return after the long winter. The image of a warty old witch comes from the crone goddess, who was honored during Samhain. She was meant to represent wisdom, change, and the turning of the season. The cauldron the crone is using was actually the place where souls went when they waited to be reincarnated. The stirring helped move old souls out and let new souls in. The spirit of this holiday survives in many modern pagan traditions, such as Wicca and Neo-paganism. And, by the way, Samhainophobia is the fear of Halloween. According to Celtic legend, jack-o'-lanterns were named after a stingy man named Jack who, because he tricked the devil several times, was forbidden entrance into both heaven and hell. The devil gave Jack an ember, and he used it to make a lantern from a turnip. He now wanders the earth for eternity using the lantern to light his way. This was used to explain strange lights seen in the forest at night, also known as will-o'-the-wisp, friar's lanterns, or ignis fatuus, meaning foolish fire. In remembrance of the story of Stingy Jack, turnips were used in the first jack-o'-lanterns, along with squashes, beets, and gourds. These were believed to guide good spirits and ward off evil ones. In the 1800s, the tradition was brought over to the US, where turnips were sparse, so the much more common pumpkin was substituted. Before the story of Jack, many people still used hollowed-out gourds as lanterns, but less for spiritual reasons and more for just lighting their way. Any way you think of them, they have become a staple of the season and developed a whole new art medium called pumpkin craft, with specific tools, contests, and world records. Another staple of Halloween, bobbing for apples, is just as old. Apples became associated with autumn celebrations in ancient Rome at the festival of Pomona, which honored the goddess of fruit trees, who happened to be called Pomona. This festival was actually held at the beginning of the fall in August. However, traditions became merged with other harvest traditions during the Roman conquest of Britain from 43 to 410 AD. When cut in half, the seeds of an apple form a pentagram. Because of this, they were seen as a magical fruit. Real magic, not baked beans magic. Many traditions developed from this belief. For example, the first unmarried person to catch a bobbing apple would be the next to marry. If they caught it quickly, it'd be true love, but if it took a few tries, then the romantic lives would be unpredictable. And if a woman who placed an apple they had caught under their pillow, they were said to dream of their soulmate. Apple bobbing has also been called ducking in Scotland and duck apple in Northern Ireland. There is also a variation of the game called snap apple in Ireland, where the apples are hung from trees instead of floated in water. Despite the obvious pagan influences, the term Halloween is very much Christian. Halloween should actually be spelt Halloween with a little apostrophe between the E's. This is because Halloween is short for hallowed evening. Hallow coming from the term for sacred or holy and being synonymous with saint in Christian tradition. Another common name is All Hallows Eve. Just like Christmas Eve, Hallows Eve is the night before All Hallows Day or Hallowmas. This is more commonly referred to as All Saints' Day. This is followed by All Souls' Day on November 2nd. Together, these 3 days make up the Hallowmas season, known as All Hallow Tide. The similar dates aren't a coincidence, however. You can thank Pope Gregory I for that. Rather than punish the pagans and or destroy their beliefs, he thought of incorporating them. This included consecrating pagan relics in the name of Christ and placing Christian holidays around pagan ones. This didn't include their gods, however. They became associated with evil, and in turn Halloween night is known as the night when evil runs loose. Trick-or-treating has some Christian connections as well. Souling or guising is a medieval Christian tradition where on Hallowmas, the poor would go door to door offering prayers for the dead in exchange for treats, in particular soul cakes, a small round cake marked with a cross. Children soon began joining the souling tradition with poems and songs, and dozens of different soul cake recipes were developed over the years. I've seen some of them, and they look delicious. In Ireland as far back as 370 AD, Halloween and trick-or-treating were combined into one title, this. Basically it means Night of Mischief or Con. The idea was boys blew horns and went around to farmers' houses demanding treats. In Scotland, it's common for kids not to say trick or treat, but to recite the sky is blue, the grass is green, may we have a Halloween. As you might imagine, there are many superstitions tied to this holiday. A Scottish belief says that girls will see images of their future husband if they hung wet sheets in front of the fire on Halloween. They would also see the lover's face if they looked into mirrors while walking downstairs at midnight. Girls who carry a lamp to a spring of water will see their future husband in the reflection. Ever wanted to meet a real witch? Well, then just put your clothes on inside out and walk backwards on All Hallows Eve, and one will appear to you at midnight. If you see a spider fall into a candle flame, then a witch is nearby. I wouldn't celebrate your success though, because if you see a spider on Halloween, it's the spirit of a loved one watching over you, and that loved one just fell into a candle flame. If a bat flies over your house 3 times, someone in the house will die soon. If a bat actually makes it into your house, it means your house is haunted because a ghost led the bat inside. If a candle is blown out by a sudden gust of wind, it also means a ghost is nearby. But if you hear footsteps behind you on Halloween night, do not turn around, because it's no ghost. It's Death himself, and staring into his eyes will shorten your path towards death. Also, much like groundhogs, if you don't cast a shadow on Halloween, then you will die within the next year. That's how that holiday works, right? According to English folklore, if you let a fire burn out on Halloween, you invite bad luck into your life. You can counter this by relighting the fire with a lightened sod brought from the home of a priest. Or you can burn an orange candle at midnight and let it burn until sunrise to get some good luck. You always want to burn new candles on Halloween though, and you'll never want to use those candles again, or you'll undo all your hard work and bring bad luck back into your life. Gazing into the candle flame on Halloween night will let you see into the future. You should walk around your home 3 times backwards and counterclockwise to ward off evil spirits, before sunset though, to make sure the neighbors can see you. That's not actually part of the myth, but I think it'd be entertaining for them. A person born on Halloween has the ability to see and talk to spirits. Black cats, spiders, and bats were all thought to be companions to witches or even a witch in disguise. Because of this, they became associated with the night witches are most active. Now, a lot of these traditions come from variations on Halloween around Europe. There is a Welsh tradition that's pretty close to Samhain. Celebrated on November 1st, it is recognized as the first day of winter. Like on Halloween, it is said to be a night when spirits are active and people avoid churchyards, stiles, and crossroads because this is where spirits tend to gather. Some traditions include placing stones with their names around a fire, and the next day, whoever is missing will die soon. Instead of the Grim Reaper, they fear the spirit of a tailless black sow accompanied by a headless woman. And the skull of a mare dressed as a ghost and decorated in jewelry is used by men to cleanse homes with songs, poetry, and dance. The residents would then tip them with anything they had on hand. Often they would become more and more jolly, having become drunk over the course of the night. Hop-tu-naa is another Celtic festival, but this time celebrated in the Isle of Man. It's on October 31st, and like Samhain, was New Year's Eve. They took trick-or-treat seriously. They carried turnip lanterns and went around asking for sweets, but they would also carry the stumps of turnips and batter the doors of those who refused to give them treats. Thankfully, this seems to have died out. Before going to bed, they would spread out the ashes of a fire in hopes of catching a footprint. If the print pointed towards the door, someone in the house would die soon. If it was pointed away from the door, it meant a birth. They'd also bake a dum cake. This was meant to be eaten in complete silence. It was made of flour, eggs, eggshells, salt, and soot, cooked over the red embers of the hearth. After eating it, they would walk backwards to their beds and wait for a dream of their future husband offering them a drink of water. This could also be done with a salt herring stolen from a neighbor. There is a specific traditional song to this holiday, which is actually what you've been listening to in the background. Allantide is the Cornish Halloween. It is linked to Saint Alan, a minor saint that I couldn't actually find any info on. The staple of this festival is the Allan apple, large, glossy red apples given as gifts to family and friends as tokens of good luck. There's a game where apples are suspended under a wooden cross with candles on it. Think of this as an extreme apple bobbing, because the punishment of not getting an apple wasn't getting your hair wet, it was hot wax on your face. They had some unique forms of divination as well, from throwing walnuts in fires and pouring molten lead into cold water. And finally, the night before Halloween is unofficially known as Mischief Night, the night to play pranks. The date does vary from place to place, but it's always around Halloween and has been happening ever since Halloween traditions were brought to the United States, and is thought to have links to traditions far older. There are your 101 facts centered around Halloween night. If you learned anything or have anything new for me to learn or try, feel free to leave those in the comments. Have a happy All Hallows Tide. Thanks for watching.